In this video, you're going to learn about what's going on, the change that's going on with grandparents and the perspectives around them. And you're going to learn those 5 keys. So hold on to the rest of the video. Hi, I'm Marie Morin. I'm a therapist and a wellness coach. Let's get started. I hear from a lot of grandparents that are completely heartbroken. They were in their adult children's good graces, helping care for their grandchildren and being cast out because of an event that was perceived as the straw that broke the camel's back. Grandparents describe themselves as profoundly loving their grandchildren. They love their children. They've been focusing their attention on their kids. They've been there for them, and they've been especially there for them during times of need, in addition to supporting them when they were kids, helping them financially, and the list goes on. Many grandparents may be asking the same questions you are. They're asking things like, do they get how their actions of cutting off the grandparents are harming their grandchildren? What are they telling the grandchildren? Will this ever get better? Why didn't they just try and resolve this problem with me? Being estranged from an adult child and the grandchildren is extremely heartbreaking. There's just no doubt. The suffering that people are going through right now because of the estrangement is just unbelievable. This situation is just heartbreaking. There's no other way to put it. In this video, you're going to be learning some key information to help you to cope. Okay, why does this happen? In Joshua Coleman's book, Rules of Estrangement, he talks about how when adult children cut off grandparents, they are weaponizing the grandchildren. Now, this is completely heartbreaking. Sometimes the cutoff occurs because something has definitely happened. It's very unlikely that nothing occurred. Now, there could be problematic behaviors that your adult child perceives are a threat to their grandchild or their way of life, their perceptions, their preferences. Sometimes it's about the adult child's spouse. That spouse may not appreciate you being around a lot. They may have their own problems. You want to watch my video about toxic partners and spouses, and you'll learn a lot more on that topic. The role of grandparents in this generation has changed. This is very significant. You know that it used to be that grandparents were seen as an authority. People wanted to be around them. They wanted to be involved in their lives. They wanted the grandparents involved in their children's lives. Well, not in every family has this changed, but in many families, with the change in adult child's individualism, wanting to do their own thing. And you're going to want to watch my videos on the 11 reasons why and why adult children cut ties. What do you do if you're a grandparent who's cut off? So the most important thing for you is to recognize what role you might have had in the cutoff. Okay, there are grandparents that are cut off and have been falsely accused. This is true. It's a given. However, there are many grandparents that participate in some type of behavior that provokes discord, and the adult child decides, okay, this is too much. Now, there are cases where the adult child cuts off and it has more to do with what's going on with them. However, in many cases, parents have been involved in doing things that created angst in the relationship. So if you're going to want to keep the door open for reconciliation, hopefully, you're going to want to be attuned to what your role might have been. So there's no guarantee, and what I teach in my videos are generalizations for some things that might occur. There are situations that grandparents and the adult child just cannot get on, and it's really a toxic situation, and it's not a good idea for reconciliation to occur. And the second thing to do is to try to initiate communication. So there's a couple of caveats here, because if your adult child has said, hey, do not contact me, then there needs to be respect to that decision on their part. However, after a time, you're going to want to send a text or a letter stating, I would like to be able to get back into relationship with you, to see you and to see my grandchild or my grandchildren. Are you willing to see a mediator to help us do so? Okay, so notice it's very benign. There isn't a lot of conversation about what's going on with you and how terrible you feel. It's just a question and seeing where that goes. Now, what we know is when an adult child cuts off, they do want this respect of their boundary being made. However, ghosting them now as well is not a good idea. If the discussion opens up with your adult child, you're going to want to be prepared by knowing how to communicate and how to listen, because it's important for you to get their perspective and to validate. This doesn't mean you agree with them. It doesn't mean you're groveling. It means you understand what they feel. And so this piece of being able to hear your adult child, what they're trying to say to you, and it's sometimes very difficult, because in most cases, I believe that parents and grandparents mean well. It's just sometimes we're not really up to speed with the perfect way to say things and present things. You're going to want to be open to your adult child's perspective. Unless they've invited you to give them feedback about how this feels to you, you're going to want to share that with a professional, telling them all sorts of things about how terrible you think that they are because they did this to you, or how heartbroken you are, may make the rift between you even worse. And the third thing, address underlying issues. Now, for example, before the cutoff, your adult child may have been telling you, please don't interfere in my preference for child rearing. And you might have said something to them. You're aware of this now, and you know that this has been bothering them and they're not appreciating it. So apologizing, and this is part of the idea of an amends, right? Making amends. Now it's asking for forgiveness. It's saying, hey, I take responsibility. You've asked me not to interfere, and I did. I apologize. And it has to be heartfelt and genuine. And sometimes this is really hard to do because, again, we grieve when we lose the relationship status with our adult children and our grandchildren. And so we're filled with a lot of emotions. A lot of times we go in and out of like anger, anxiety for when we're going to see them again. And then we're feeling all this sadness. So we could be very heightened. So writing a letter with someone's help is always a good idea, because if we're writing it out of a sense of anger, that's not going to go over too well. Number 4 is respecting your adult child's boundaries. So it's often that they say, look, I need some time. We're not going to be doing babysitting for a while, or whatever it is that they tell you. You're not going to see the baby, whatever it is. And your heart is broken and you want to just rush right in. It's not uncommon people to want to just rush right in. We got to fix this because there's so much discomfort around it. But this is never a good idea. And I have a video on that. So watch the card, you're going to see the video. But so the idea here is if your adult child says, I need space, it really is important for you to be patient and give them space for a certain amount of time, meaning you're not begging and upset and trying to persuade them. It's important during this time to take care of yourself, learn some skills in how to manage all of these really strong feelings so that you're not reacting but responding. You're going to want someone that you can talk to so you could process this grief. But respecting your adult child's boundaries really means that you're letting them make the decision that's best for them and you're waiting patiently. But you're also going to be persistent. And the persistence is that you're going to work on yourself. You're going to do the best you can to manage how you feel. And this will help you to move forward. Number 5, be prepared to make changes. So what this means is that what you hear from your adult child, if you haven't been falsely accused, is really going to be hard. You're not going to want to disconnect from your grandchildren, and so you're going to have a lot of emotions, as we just discussed. But the changes mean that there's an adjustment in the way that we view the relationship, that we can't see our grandchildren for a time, hopefully for a short season. And the changes mean you start focusing on yourself. How can I better communicate? How do I learn how to be more patient with my adult child when they're telling me something that's really bothering me? These are changes that are your responsibility to make. When we go through these changes, and there is opportunity to see our adult children, our willingness to change and our heart to change and the changes we make, meaning if we had been desperate about seeing them before and then we're respectful and we're patient about it, your adult child will see these things. And we know that adult children who have chosen to estrange often feel like their parents need to prove that they have changed. Being estranged from your adult child and your grandchildren is just a harrowing experience. It feels like your heart has been cut in two. You miss them terribly. But there's a couple of things to understand. So there's this range of what could happen. And the worst case scenario is being falsely accused of something that you didn't do, and then being required to either admit it or being banished for life, in which case you don't ever get to see your grandchild. And this is just horrible, okay? And then there's cases where the other end of it could be something like you don't get along, there's been long-standing stuff, or something happened that broke the camel's back and your adult child said you're not watching your grandchildren anymore, and there's this rift between you, and there's things that you can take responsibility for. So if there's been a rift between you because of things that have happened, both parties behaving in ways that have made the relationship go south, getting support, grieving, learning how to communicate better, making sure that you're taking care of yourself, taking responsibility for what you did and apologizing. These are all very important things. But there's no guarantee, even if you do all that, that your adult child will allow you to see your grandchild again. We don't know what they're going to do. And in some cases, parents have used legal help. They've tried to get a mediator through a legal means or a court order to see their grandchildren. And when this happens, it's sometimes the case where the rift gets so bad that the adult child does not want to resume a relationship. So there's all of these factors, and none of the estrangement is ever clean cut, that there's a one size fit all. I hope this video has been a help to you. If you like this video, hit the like and subscribe so you can get more. I put a video out once a week. And don't forget my ebook, Feeling Heartbroken and Alone, How to Pick Up the Pieces When You're Estranged. And leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought and what your experience has been. See you in the next video.